Today is Monday, November 9th, 2020. Today is a special meeting and workshop of the Board of Education. I will be filling in for Pete tonight. Unfortunately, Pete had to travel for work. Therese has also had an unexpected issue, and she's also going to try to make it here, hopefully a little late. So welcome everyone in the audience and those at home watching. Thank you for joining us this evening. So with that, I'll just jump right into, we have some presentations, and we're going to start with number one, Lee Liu, financial presentation.
Amy, Dr. Goodman, did you want me to go first?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I thought it was going to be reversed. So go up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just briefly give you an overview of where we are right now with...
The board may want to take some seats in the audience, I'm thinking. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sorry. Okay, so what I'm doing, it's just a brief presentation to give you an idea of where we are right now with additional expenses for COVID-related expenses, and also where we might see some revenue adjustments also due to what we're hearing in the financial environment. Who's got the clicker? Oh, there we go. Thank you, Chris. So as you can see, I've broken it out into various categories. And the first one is personnel changes. So we have had retirements, we've had leave of absences, we've had various additional hires to cover COVID-related needs. So the net result of all the personnel changes to the district is a net savings to the district of about $71,000. In terms of supplies, there have been a lot of stockpiling of disinfectants, purchases of different disinfectants, cleaners, sprayers, equipment that we needed, all the various different things that we've had to do, and that's cost us about an additional $83,560. For technology, we've had additional broadband, we've had to buy additional devices, we've had to buy additional software for remote learning. All those things were in addition to what we had anticipated and came to a $52,470 to date. For transportation, we've had we had 3 additional buses in the month of September and 3 additional monitors. We had 2 additional buses in the month of October. We're down to 1 additional bus right now with 1 additional monitor. And then if we carry that forward through the rest of the year with 1 additional bus, that would be an expense for the full year of $109,000 over budget. And then for other services, those are consultants and other services that the district required to configure the buildings and the academic program for remote learning and hybrid learning. That was about $5,100. So additional expenses to date, and then also including transportation with 1 additional bus through the rest of the year, is $178,670. There may be additional savings as we go forward during the year as well that we have not determined yet. So there may be things, if we can't run certain athletics or other programs, there may be some savings to the district that we'll calculate as we go forward. But to date, we're looking at about $178,000 in additional expenses. Okay, Chris, you advanced it, right? Yes. So for revenue, there are significant hits to the budget on the revenue side as well. Let me just get that out. We had originally anticipated sales tax due to the large increase in sales tax that the county had provided us last year. And due to the pandemic, even though I had reduced our original expectations which were, I thought, conservative at the time, but the pandemic and the reduced spending in the Westchester County, I'm expecting that we could see a shortfall to the budget of about $105,000. Tuition for general ed students, and that's parents who place their regular education students in our district and pay tuition. I had budgeted $90,000, but we know to date that we have only the amount of students that would provide $75,000 in revenue, so that would be a $15,000 revenue shortfall. For interest income, I had significantly reduced interest income revenue for the budget, knowing that interest rates were probably going to decline, but they went from about 2% last year, and when we did have some monies in the bank due to the capital project unspent funds, interest right now is way under 1%, barely over zero. So I'm reducing our projections for interest income by about $80,000. If interest rates do go up, we can take another look at that, but right now, conservatively, I think it would be wise to do that. And then the state aid. So state aid is not, we're still waiting to hear what the final results will be in state aid. This is what we're thinking could be the worst case scenario with the state aid reductions of 20%. We had already started to hear that they've reduced our BOCES aid that they paid us over the summer. We just found out last week they reduced that by 20%, and that's last year's state aid. So looking forward to this year's state aid, and including the last year's hits that we're taking, that could be as much as $383,000 below what we had conservatively lowered state aid to be going into the budget. Nobody anticipated, and none of the other districts in the area anticipated, a full 20% total. And the state is talking about it's just a withholding right now, and they haven't withheld that much yet. That's just the potential if they decide to withhold a full 20%. And then if they do withhold it, they could give it back in the future, but at the moment, if we look back 10 years when they took away state aid, most of it, or much of it was not recovered. So to be conservative and take a look at the 20% hit, that would be $383,000. And then what all the districts surprisingly found to be a possibility is that our STAR reimbursement, which is really, it is state aid, but it's actually part of our levy, that could be reduced as well, we found out. And that, since our STAR reimbursement is $1,753,000, that could be as much as $350,000. So there's $1 million potential of revenue shortfalls if all these things come to pass. And again, these are all potential revenue shortfalls. None of these are known at this point in time, but these are, real conservative estimates of what our revenue shortfalls could look like. So that's $1 million in revenue on the revenue side that we could be short. We could make it up in other revenue categories, but right now this is where we are seeing hits. And as I said before, on the expense side, right now we're looking at about $178,000. So that's just to give you a framework for what we're looking at right now in this environment. Any questions? Okay.
Any questions? Anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Actually, yes, Laura.
So if there is $1 million or close to it, what does that look like for cuts to services for students, including classroom instruction, those kind of things?
Well, that would be something that the administration and the Board of Education could discuss. One of the ways we could handle the revenue shortfalls could be cuts that could be made mid-year or any time that the board and the administration decided that might be appropriate. The other way is there are reserves that we could tap into, but that would significantly impact our reserves as well. So we would have to take a look at all that going forward. And as we get a better handle on what these shortfalls might be, we can give you a clearer idea of how you might want to approach that.
then we don't know when we would have some idea. Did you say that or no?
We would have an idea. As we move into the year, we only have our first quarter results right now, really. So as we go a little further into the year and see what the state is really, they had said by the end of December, they would decide if there would be additional cuts to state aid. So I think by the end of the calendar year, we would have a pretty good idea of where we stand.
So this December end of the
Correct.
calendar year?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question.
Sure.
In terms of the reserves, I understand we could, obviously as a board, as a district, we could decide to use that, and that might take us through the year, but then the following is when we would start to.
Right. So we have $1,450,000 in our 4% unrestricted reserves. We have some other small reserves that might be able to be tapped and taken a look at. We'd have to take a look and see. But going forward, we would have probably to really significantly think about cutting into the budget and reducing expenditures so that we can manage to save again toward building back the reserves and lowering the appropriations that we do to balance the budget.
Have you heard anything from the state as far as the governor doing any kind of emergency orders or different things that districts and schools can do to make up shortfalls?
Basically, they're saying either cut program or use your reserves. Right now, the federal government has not told the state that they'll help make the state whole. So right now, the state is looking to find a way to balance the state's budget, and that's why they're withholding payments to school districts.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So Dr. Goodman is give us a presentation on maximizing in-person instruction. That's good.
Should we begin?
Good evening, Board Trustees, community members, and colleagues. Thank you for this opportunity to present and conduct a board discussion on our reopening procedures. Earlier in the year, when these were first presented, I described them as fluid and responsive to changes in research, trends, and public health situation. Over the past few weeks, we have closely monitored development and worked with our experts, both experts in the field and experts in our district on our Health and Wellness Committee, our reopening committee, to make changes to our plan as we move forward. In this presentation, I will discuss the fluidity and responsiveness of our reopening plan. We have monitored health trends, data on school reopenings nationally and internationally, data from our local pediatricians and healthcare workers, and reflected on our own data to consider the ways in which we could amend our plan. We will present the risks and benefits of increasing in-person learning and our plan to increase in-person elementary instruction for 4th and 5th grade students with the same model as K-3. I am also going to present early discussions around increasing in-person instruction for grades 6 through 12 and the financial impacts of all of these changes. As always, our efforts are driven by our purpose and mission to keep students and staff learning and safe. This means promoting health and hygiene protocols that lessen the likelihood of transmission of the COVID-19 virus. It also means providing students with regular access to face-to-face instruction, the value of which research has widely documented, and our mission of excellence for all students. Our purpose in reopening has always been to develop a responsive plan that provides for the physical safety, emotional wellness, and academic success of all our students. All along, as an institution committed to public education, we are prioritizing teaching, learning, and health and wellness of our faculty, staff, and students. The purpose and mission, again, of excellence for all has driven our conversations, reflection, and research. We present these findings and possible plans in tonight's presentation. Our goals are displayed here. We want to bring more students on campus for in-person learning. We see how important it is for students to be in the classroom with access to their teachers and in the company of their classmates. School reopenings plans must be flexible and nimble in our response to the pandemic. Schools look different, undoubtedly, but our learning communities benefit from having more students in attendance. We understand that we must maintain protocols and procedures for students, faculty, and staff, and keep appropriate social distancing. Tonight, we'll talk about the state's guidelines that defines appropriate social distancing as 6 feet of space or use of appropriate physical barriers between individuals. We also seek to provide more opportunities for physical activity for our students. During extended mass breaks outside, we will promote more active and engaging physical activity. We had 4 positive COVID cases since our reopening in September. All the cases were limited to a cohort of teachers and students. The administration worked closely with the Westchester County Department of Health in response to positive cases at William E. Cottle Elementary School and this weekend in Tuckahoe Middle School. We have found these experiences to be informative and helpful. The Westchester County Department of Health has been a true partner, and our administration has moved, and I'm very proud of them, swiftly to determine contacts of the infected person and alert them to quarantine. The Westchester County Department of Health has been impressed with the processes we had in place, how quickly and effectively we are able to procure contact information and reach out to community members who are considered contacts before we reach out to the rest of our community and before they would ever hear from the Department of Health. We think it's important they hear from us first. Districts in the region and we have not seen spread of this virus in the school. Other states and countries and counties have reported the same. Now, Westchester has identified more than 100 new daily COVID cases for 11 days in a row and has not had a day with a positivity rate below 2% since October 30th. The state data showed the last time I looked at it on Friday. According to the state tracker, the county recorded 178 new cases with a 2.33 positivity rate on Thursday. The growing caseload comes as Governor Andrew Cuomo designated Portchester a yellow precautionary zone on Friday because of its high risk of cases, the first Westchester community to get the designation. The county had 182 new COVID cases on Wednesday, the most since May 9th, when the county recorded 207 cases. Now, recent growth, as you know, is attributed to testing and also some COVID-19 fatigue, but it's not as high as when we, of course, were at our peak and not as high as so many other states. We need to take into account the active cases by municipality in Westchester as of Friday. So Tuckahoe, again, this is not our students, this is our whole village, has 13 active cases, Eastchester 23, Bronxville has 8. But some of the really large numbers come from the highly populated municipalities. Yonkers have 320 new cases, New Rochelle 198 new cases, Portchester 119, Mount Vernon 101. So that's where the numbers are so high. As we learn the science, we change in terms of our protocol. Our system, that's not new cases, that's the total number of cases right now. As we learn the science, we change the terms of our protocol. Our system has been strengthened as a result of our close work with the Department of Health and review of our scientific studies and databases. We have examined so many different studies. We have also paid close attention to research findings. Data on almost 200,000 students in 47 states revealed an infection rate of 0.13% among students and 0.24% among staff. That's 1.3 infections over 2 weeks in a school of 1,000 staff, or 2.2 infections over 2 weeks in a group of 1,000 staff. Even in high-risk areas of the country, the student rates were well under halved. So we're fully aware that the numbers aren't zero, and we do understand this virus. But we know that school spread is not the issue. In Europe, they are staying open with transmission levels in communities almost 10 times higher than ours, with the student working 3 to 1.5 meters apart with face coverings. There have been no documented super spreader events linked to a traditional school day. In discussing with district leaders across the county, superintendents are also not seeing, as we are, surging rates among teachers or parents. For example, we are seeing in our school community that none of the cases have emanated from the school and they're not spreading in the school, and the superintendents have seen the same. In Connecticut districts, students are spread 3 to 4 feet apart with use of face coverings and plexiglass dividers. In a Long Island school district, students are spread 3 to 6 feet apart with plexiglass, permitting them to bring back all the students. I'm not saying we're going to do that right now, but I want you to understand this. Germany, France, Italy, and Ireland are all announcing national or partial lockdowns. All are in the midst of a second wave, yet all are keeping schools open while closing other establishments. Europeans have prioritized keeping schools open. Recently, the governor of New Jersey commented on the rising transmission rates, but contended that these spikes are not attributed to K-12 schools. As we return more and more students, we need to be aware there will be quarantines, which are our conservative response to potential exposure. And we are isolating individuals and quarantining people, but our pediatricians right here in our community are saying all those students who have been quarantined in all of the districts in Westchester County, that they are not seeing any spread amongst those students who have been, and teachers, who have been quarantined. I should say actually students, because they were pediatricians. One of the doctors on our committee said out of hundreds of kids that his group sees because of all these quarantines and tests, that only one of the students in Westchester County tested positive, and that was because of the virus that student got from an adult who traveled. Acknowledging low infection rates among students and staff and adhering to New York State Department of Health guidelines, we will be moving ahead by examining the science and promoting the health, physical safety, and academic success of our students. In our meeting with the Health and Wellness Subcommittee, the risks and benefits were discussed. Again, we acknowledge that this virus is it's all over, and we wish it wasn't. However, we are encouraged by the many reports that show students do not present with harmful symptoms, and additionally, they don't seem to spread the virus again in school. Additionally, it's worth noting that more students, again, may mean more interruptions. Contact tracing to this point has been done with class sizes halved for the most part. Bringing back all students may mean the net we need to spread for contact tracing is far wider, and this may mean more interruptions to in-person learning. However, the benefits of in-person instruction have been found in multiple studies to be more effective. Being in person allows our teachers to be more responsive to observations and cultivate caring communities. Student learning outcomes improve when students are in front of teachers. It also provides a consistency for students. Going to school is a routine they know, one that they need, and one that our students are really eager to return to. And I'm sure their parents are also eager. This will lead to improved social and emotional wellness. Our teachers and support staff have been wonderful. I have been incredibly impressed with our administration, teaching, and support staff. But the more they have students before them, the more they, in their expertise, will be able to help them academically, see changes and affect social groups when our students are in the building. Where are we? What are we doing now? Well, currently, we have students in grades K through 3 in full-time. Classes are broken in 2, and the teacher works in one room while the video is simulcast into the paired room with an aide. And actually, I have again, been so impressed with our aides and our teachers. Now, in the elementary school, grades 4 and 5 are hybrid, where students follow an A-B schedule. We have approximately 60 students in Cottle who are fully virtual. This is about 10% of the student population. Now, in Tuckahoe Middle and High School, following a hybrid schedule on the A-B, the same as Cottle, approximately 100 students are opting for a fully virtual experience. This is about 18% of the student population. Also important to note is that our English language learners and special education students are invited to attend school every day. Now, what we're looking at Cottle is our plan focuses around repurposing the cafeteria. As you know, if you're a Cottle parent or teacher, students eat lunch in their classroom, and the cafeteria was switched for a room for our STEAM program. We are now going to put that on a cart or push-in, and we are going to break the cafeteria into small areas for group instruction. This will open up some of our smaller classrooms and will permit us to divide up classes in a way where we can offer the K-3 model of an on-site instruction, where a teacher leads a classroom from one room and it's simulcast into the other, and the teacher can switch back and forth. Making these changes and reassigning these learning spaces will permit us to bring back all 4th and 5th grade students who want to come back. And again, as a school district, we first prioritized special education and English language learners, and we prioritized our youngest learners. We just could not see how these K-3 students were going to be in any kind of hybrid setting. Then also, our 4th and 5th graders are young, and it's very hard for them. And we want to provide optimal learning, so I thank Mr. Marash, Mr. Kilgallen, the teachers and staff, because they came up with a very creative plan, always putting students first. Now, the Tuckahoe Middle School, High School, this is a little different. It's harder in the middle school, high school, because kids have very unique schedules, and because we're a small school, it even is more unique to our school district. We can't say we have all these English 9 classes so we can move students around in a certain way. Small districts are hard. So even to bring the students back from remote, because we have offered that both in the middle school, high school, and in the elementary school, we are going to work on that between November 10th and 16th. Tonight on the board agenda is a consultant who's going to help work with us. But then we want to start to look at how we can bring back more students and have them begin to return from hybrid learning. So the next steps for that is to work with our scheduling consultant alongside our administration and key staff. We'll examine room capacity and determine the appropriate size for each class. We want to enter these conversations with data that can inform our decision-making. We are looking at different types. We worked with our Health and Wellness Reopening Committee with a focus now on bringing back 6 through 12 in a slow, measured way. We know 6th graders are young. We know that most high school students can handle this better than middle school students. And we will work with the consultant to review our schedules and logistics. We're not quite sure what that looks like yet. We're looking at plexiglass desk dividers. The way I see it is that if we bring students back in some of the classrooms that maybe we can't do 6 feet, we always keep the teacher 6 feet away, because we know that this virus in students, for most students, is not an issue. But we want to make sure that our teachers and staff are well protected. We would put the teacher 6 feet away. We would give the teacher the students who were in classes that were less than 6 feet would have plexiglass dividers for their desk, and teachers would have a plexiglass divider attached to their desk so that they can feel even safer than practically what we have right now. We are also going to look at, with our teachers, key teachers, our administration, and our consultant, reconfiguring rooms and schedules to see if we can fit more students in a class. Because as you know, some classes are very small-sized. But again, it's because we're so unique. Finally, we would consider staggering the return of students, maybe phasing in the 6th grade first, the middle school, and then the high school, and systematically moving up. Lastly, we will need to assess the transportation costs and the costs for these models. Lilu just did a presentation, and this is even more money that the district would have to expend. So it's important that the board and community knows just an estimate of what we think this may cost. So here are the increased costs of what we're looking at. So for Cottle, we have, and I thank Mr. Danko, again, Mr. Marash is here tonight. They both can answer any questions you may have. We're looking at these temporary dividers that offices have, and because, unfortunately, what's going on with businesses, we are able to get them at a greatly reduced cost. So we worked out, it would cost around $10,000. Furniture, we would look for some rugs and some furnitures to make the area just as nice as we can make it. We also have moving and storage expenses, and you know we have moved everything out of our classrooms already, and we have pods of furniture on our field already, and this would be more to make room to get out the cafeteria tables that are against the wall because we need the space. There would be phone and text drops into the room, and technology would cost about $18,000 for added technologies, desktops, because they're leaving a room that has all of that in it, and we may need some of that, some smart boards for teachers also. If we brought back K-12 eventually, and we did less than 6 feet, which we already have the plan to K-5, so this would probably be half the number. But, you know, we could be in this a long time, and we might want to reconsider as we go along once we see that we can do this. So the desk shields and district-wide for students would cost from our, again, we're looking around and seeing the best price, about $15,000, maybe $7,000 as for the middle school, high school. The staff, we want to get them really good affixed to their desks kind of dividers, so that's about $4,000. Additional staffing required. So we would need an additional cleaner right now, we believe, at Cottle, because the students eat in their classroom, and adding all these 4th and 5th graders and all the traffic to the building, Cottle would be pretty much back to what it was pre-pandemic. So we would want an additional part-time cleaner. And as we do this district-wide, we think we may need 2 aides. We have been using, as you see in Leah Lou's presentation, we've been using a lot more staff because of how we're dividing up students and traffic in the hallway and bus arrivals and dismissals. Mr. Marash has come up with a very great schedule for how we can redeploy some people, and we're looking district-wide also, so it's not as many aides as we originally thought we would need. The number of buses needed to bring back more students, again, remember, the buses are also socially distanced. So one additional bus is what we have looked at to bring back to Cottle with bringing back the 4th and 5th graders. We are also looking at increasing bus capacity. So right now, we're very socially distant on the bus, but there's no requirement to do that as much as we're doing. We would start to have to add some more students to the bus. We also see that a lot of parents are providing their kids, they're driving their kids to school. Additional buses would also be needed for the middle school and high school as we ramped it up eventually. Another bus would cost $7,100 per month. We're not sure that we need that because we know also parents are driving their students, and students are driving to school, and in high school you see that more and more, even middle school, as kids get older, regardless of the pandemic. Those buses usually don't ride to capacity. Another proposal the board could consider is, at least for the middle school and high school, as we bring students back, that we provide the transportation on an A day and not a B day, just to get students back. I mean, all of this costs money, and we would have to look at that over time. Extra buses, okay, and I think we covered all that. Finally, the use of the playground. This was a great outcome of our Health and Wellness Committee, reopening committee, and we've already changed it. We have included the playground use for students during their extended mask break. Although, to be on the playground, they must wear a mask. They can now, and they're so much enjoying it, use the playground. They need to sanitize their hands before and after, and they are closely supervised by staff to make sure that there is appropriate social distancing and safe behaviors. Now, we really need to all do this together. In our homes, in our communities, I know people are getting COVID fatigue. It's really happening. People are they're meeting with friends and family in their house. The holidays are coming up. We need to really be vigilant. We can't let our guard down. Even though school is not showing a spread, we don't want to spread in our community because the governor already put something in place that if there's a spread in your community, you go from a yellow zone and an orange and red zone. Schools are shut down. So regardless of how you may feel about this virus, and we risk school getting shut down and people getting sick if we are not careful. On the holidays, traveling is very risky. If you are seeing people, you could have them tested beforehand. We hope that our school community will take this as seriously as we're taking it in the school. Practice caution and restraint. Wear a mask. Stay home and keep your children home when sick. Let us know if students are sick. And plan for the colder weather. That's when we're really afraid that people are going to have gatherings in their house. So please be aware of that. We think the most important thing that students need right now is school. Finally, I want to thank everybody. These plans are accumulation of a joint effort. Tuckahoe has really the finest staff, excellent, amazing administrators, and our community students have been really outstanding. From day one, even our youngest learners came in and they were wearing a mask. And they have been incredible troopers with our social distancing. When we go to using partitions, we will start with the older students. We feel like our younger students have pretty much really expended themselves by being able to wear this mask all day, but we could even go there also eventually. Teachers, administrators, board members have been incredibly supported. Health experts and community members have gotten a lot of good feedback. Our doctors and researchers in our community, all our healthcare providers who are on Health and Safety Committee, I am so indebted to them, and so are we all, because it really helped us understand this virus and how it doesn't spread in schools, how it spreads in the community, and how careful we have to continue to be regardless. Again, administration is strong, faculty and staff, my appreciations to them. It has not been easy, but they have done this with a smile under their masks. You can tell that it's there. I want to also thank our facilities team, always and always, Mr. Danko and all of the custodians. Practice with caution, wear a mask, stay home, and the other way to plan for colder weather also is that we will have windows open in school. Please have your students dress in layers. Ventilation is very important, and fresh air is important. Thank you, everybody. Again, our Health and Safety Committee, I want to thank them for their recommendations. Our intention is to try to bring all students back to school in a measured way. Our first thing is really 4th and 5th grade. We value the role of the public school in the community, and we know that our families see the school as the heart of our neighborhood. We take these recommendations very seriously and appreciate the partnerships that we have made in this important work. We like to remind our community that Tuckahoe, we are in this together. Again, the strong administration, the teachers and staff, our CSEA clerical workers, our custodians, our volunteer staff on all of these reopening committees, and the support that we've had of this Board of Education in striving for excellence for all students, and our parents and our students who continue to follow our health guidelines in the school. Thank you, as always, for your partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goodman.
Thank you. Any questions?
So we'll open up for discussion, questions.
Well, I do want to really say thank you to the administration, the teachers, the staff, I mean, just everybody, because that is, the first one was a huge undertaking, and now to sort of go back to the drawing board again and do this all over again, I'm sure that all of you are extremely exhausted at this point, but you're continuing to go and keeping it going for the students, and you should really all be commended for it.
Thank you.
So just questions, thank you, Cynthia, I absolutely agree with you on all of that. I do have a question about, I love the comprehensive plan that have been discussed, or ideas for them. I continue to have just concerns about those children or teachers, staff, or adults who may have pre-existing conditions that, you know, respiratory problems, those sorts of things, families who come from ethnic groups or socioeconomic levels who may not have access to quality health care, which totally limits their ability to receive any help that they may need should they contract the virus. We see those communities usually happening in Black and Hispanic communities, higher levels of death. So what I'd like to know is, you know, that continues to be a concern. What is the research, or what are they saying about those type of issues?
In our research and what we've spoken about in our committee is that students who are getting the least amount of education right now, and where you see the real divide, is between wealthy and poor students, Black students, and white students. There is a difference, and that's what our concern is. Not just our school district, it should be everybody's call to action, is that, you know, students go to a private school, and or kids can afford to have people home with them when they're on this hybrid learning. You know, parents are not working, or they even hire somebody to tutor their child. There is a real divide. There's an economic divide, first and foremost. So that's one of the reasons we talked about in our research. I have a whole binder of research that shows that this is an equity issue more than anything.
Exactly.
So we are very concerned about students being home alone. We are concerned young students being home alone. Sometimes parents have language barriers and they can't help their children in class. Parents are staying home as if they're teachers, and that's not healthy, especially for our little kids who need them there, and our students who struggle. So we really, as our committee, felt that this, more than helping students that have all that help at home, we want to make sure that families that are struggling have a place for their children to be learning and taken care of. And also, if we see students need resources, we see it a lot more in school to help them. And we have great PPS staff to help them and help our parents, but we don't know at home what's going on. So that's one of the reasons we're looking at this more carefully. Exactly.
And then the other question is just on a whole nother area is if the district were, being that we may see a $1 million deficit in our budget, and then we do like the buses, we do some of those proposals that you have to pick one to do, both costing quite a bit of money. Is that really an option for us to really move forward with opening or expanding up the way that we would like to.
Right.
When I think about opening back up and I think about all of the additional things that we would need to purchase, the dividers and all of those things, I think about, because I believe in looking at a glass half full, not half empty. I believe this virus is going to be arrested, and we are going to be able to reconvene some sense of normalcy, pre-COVID. And so my concern is we go and purchase all of this furniture, all of the, the tools that we need, the dividers and all of those things. What do we do with all of that stuff after the fact? Where is that stuff going to be stored? Do we continue to keep pods? So I'm thinking long-term too, short-term, but also long-term, and making sure that we spend money wisely, because what I don't want to see happen is that, because our budget is cut, we lose staff. We lose teachers, because now we have all these dividers and all these things that we can't use anymore. We end up cutting our paraprofessionals that we really need. They support learning of our students. Our maintenance staff, they help keep everything cool. Like, we need everyone. So just maybe talk a little bit about that.
This budget, for this, does entail hiring more staff. And if things change, it could change, but it's not the current staff that's here. And we could, right now we're not accepting out-of-district students, which we normally do, and we, in special education, and we need aides for them or classes, because we wanted to have the most room for our Tuckahoe residents, which are first and foremost, we're indebted to them as public servants. Some of those positions can end up being, positions for those classes when things get back to normal. But our Health and Wellness Committee didn't think that was anytime soon, truly, even with the vaccine. Even with the good news we got today about a vaccine, until that gets out to everybody, they didn't think, now of course we didn't have that information, and it was just last week,
Right.
They didn't think that that would be that fast, and that this virus is going to be in the community for a while. They were saying, they gave some not great estimates for how long we might have to do this. And I wouldn't want to see us do nothing on the hope that, it's going to go away. Because it really is, New York is much better than the rest of the country. And if schools, and especially because of Connell, like we figured out 4th and 5th grade, 6 feet apart. And I think that about $58,000 for Cottle. Maybe with another aide, and the cleaner. Okay, so it's probably about $100,000, maybe altogether for Cottle if we need the aides, which we're not sure. I think that if we don't prioritize our youngest learners, this is just, it's up to the board, and also I think the district and our I think if we become more of a leader in this, I think that this board will support our teachers and our staff more, and I would hope so, because we would be taking the lead in this. And we've done really well so far. So I would hope that as we balance things, that we look at our teachers and our support staff as the backbone of all our staff, of what we're doing. And that wouldn't be, if we had a cut, where we would go in any way first. And that we would show our appreciation in different ways to them.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Goodman, for that presentation. I just wanted to go back a little bit to the discussion about, so 4 and 5, 4th and 5th, you're maintaining 6 feet. So that's more, so as far as the dividers and all, so that 100,000 would be for not dividers and things. That's just bringing in aides. Does that count? So the one extra bus is sufficient for the 4 and 5 coming back? Okay.
Even if that, because we're going to increase the capacity on the bus also.
Okay.
And we believe that a lot of parents may want to drive their students. And a lot of kids live close enough to get to school in other ways too.
Right.
So we don't, the buses also, I didn't add that in, that would be that extra cost too on the other side.
On the other one, yeah.
Yeah, and.
But the bus that may be added
Would be
later could be more, right? Because even though parents may be doing that now, that's probably in large part for lots of reasons, but one of which might be that the weather is what it is. But when the snow and the ice and all of that, I'm thinking that more people would opt to ride the bus, and so would we need another one after that?
Well, I let Ms. Wu answer that, Lee. Can you answer that? Because
Well,
I
right now
know
we
you
think
assess the buses with your staff. Just
Right now, we
before
think that if we brought everybody back to Cottle, we would not need more than one additional bus because we might increase capacity slightly. We've been tracking ridership. If ridership does change, though, with the weather changing, we would have to reevaluate. But at this time, we think that if we slightly increase capacity, we can manage at most with one more bus. And if ridership continued on the level it's at or changed in a different way, we might even be able to continue with the number of buses we currently have. And generally, the buses that we need for the district is driven on what we need for Cottle, because we have fewer students taking the bus at the middle and the high school typically. We might be able to add an extra loop on several buses so that we wouldn't need more than one more bus, and we could manage within the time frame of getting students to school. They may be on the bus slightly longer or slightly earlier, but we think we can manage that way.
Thank you.
And also, you had mentioned, Lee, that at another point in time, I remember you saying that the bus is really Cottle sort of dictates the bus, right? And then whatever is left over, sort of your middle high school, because we don't use, those students don't really use the bus as much as the Cottle.
Correct, so that when we're paying for the buses, we're paying for them for a certain number of hours. So we have them available to the middle and high school. We can spread out the routes if we need to. We can't eliminate a bus because we're not using them at the high school. It's driven, we decide how many buses we need based on Cottle, and then we have them for the district.
Right. Thank you.
And just to talk about the dividers, Marty got the best price for the dividers because we decided to go again, and because businesses are going, unfortunately, out of business, that we're buying these not even repurposed, used dividers, because you know how offices had big rooms with spaces and they're just not existing. So I think we got a very good price for them, and I think we could reuse them in special education classes as we go forward. But also, we also found out that they would buy them back from us when we didn't use them. That's part of the deal, right? Did you tell me that today?
Yeah, the vendor that I'm working with now said that most likely when this is all over, if we wanted to get rid of them, they would purchase them back. Obviously, it's not what we paid
Right.
for them, but we would recoup some of our money.
Oh,
That's good.
I mean, the used ones are about a half to a third of the price of the brand new one. So there's a big cost saving by going with stuff that's already been bought by somebody else.
Of course, we also know that there could be people in the community who know of a business that's getting rid of their dividers, and we'd be happy to do things like that too.
Right. So the 4th and 5th, when do you anticipate that happening?
Well, I spoke to Mr. Marash. He is here. Do you want to go up
Mr.
there
Marash,
to
would you like
ask?
to,
You could go up to the podium up there, but we want, okay, I'll let him.
Mr. Moritz, before you start, I just want to thank you on behalf of the board for all your amazing and hours you put in and the work you put in with Dr. Goodman and the whole staff, really, and the teachers. We're very, very happy and very pleased with everything you've done, so thank you.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that, and thank you, the board, for all of your support. Dr. Goodman, thank you for all of your support, and of course, it's a team effort. It's a team effort. It's the teachers, it's the staff, it's everybody, Mr. Keogh, Mr. Danko, complete team effort. So it's been a lot of work, but again, it's in the best interest of our students. Let's get our students back in. Let's get them back in safely and keep everyone safe. Absolutely.
So we talked about a timeline. I know that Mr. Danko said he could get the dividers really quickly, like tomorrow. We talked tomorrow.
Tomorrow would be really exciting.
No?
They have them available, so it's
Yeah.
a matter of us committing to getting it.
And there would be other things. So would you say, I would think like after Thanksgiving, maybe December 1st?
Yeah, I think that that's possible, based on a lot of discussions and ironing out of a lot of details today, and discussions with Mr. Danko about the partition delivery and possibilities there. I could see that being a possibility as early as December 1st. Absolutely. To get 4 or 5 back in.
I think that would be just like an amazing feat of the district, and I also thank you. I just want to also thank Mr. Keough, because he's been instrumental in all of this.
Absolutely.
He's
Yeah.
going to totally help us when we start looking at the middle school, because he knows how to schedule middle school.
Have you surveyed, or do you plan to survey to see of the 4th and 5th grade that would come back, how many are receptive to actually sending their kids back to full time?
We have, that's a great point, Ms. Tate. We have not sent a survey directly to the parents. I do know from emails, phone calls, a lot of feedback that many parents are very interested in sending their students
I
back
think,
full-time.
yeah.
But we have not sent a survey out. I know that I've met with the teachers a couple times now and explained in more detail how we're going to do this. I can say with great confidence that the teachers are very excited at the possibility and the prospect of bringing the students back. We do have a way to do it, and we have a way to do it maintaining 6 feet and bringing everyone back safely.
Yeah, and I did have about because you mentioned the cafeteria would be used. Are you talking about putting all 4th and 5th grades there and it'd be separate? What was the plan?
No. So I can give certainly some detail at this point. So the cafeteria itself, as Dr. Goodman laid out, would be largely a small group learning space.
Okay.
So almost with the partitions in mind, almost cubicling off areas of the cafeteria where service providers would be able to pull students for small group instruction.
Okay. got it.
So that's been very, very carefully measured out with the help of Mr. Danko. So that would be the concentration of the cafeteria would be that small group instruction. By putting the small group instruction in the cafeteria and 2 to 3 other spaces throughout the building, it frees up
Okay.
those rooms where we can bring in the 4th and 5th grade.
Okay.
Any questions? Anything else?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. So I wanted just to, I have one other question to ask, and that's now that we have the plan about 4 and 5, and then we discussed, now it's December, January, talking about bringing middle school, 6, 7, 8. I guess one of the things that I've seen around as I'm doing my research with what other districts are doing, what I'm seeing is they're able to bring students back with partitions, right? That's where you come in, Mr. Danko. And so I'd like to actually, if you wouldn't mind, taking some questions, just because so people can hear. Thank you so much. So I've seen a lot of the, whether it's on Long Island, some of our neighboring districts, some northern districts, the way that they're doing it is they're putting the partitions up in the classrooms or in front of the teachers or both. So I guess my question is, seeing that that is a possibility and knowing that the supply chain, as far as other districts now seeing that this is the way to get students back in, what would be our plan as far as a board to vote on that, to move on ordering it so that we can sort of be ahead of the curve a little bit?
You're speaking of the desk dividers, like
Yeah,
at
so it
each
looks
student
like-
desk, it's a 3-sided.
Right.
Yeah, we've been looking into it. It seems the supply for them is very adequate right now. There's about a 2-week lead time on most of them. I'm actually having samples dropped off tomorrow. So I think as long as we act shortly, we won't have an issue getting what we need. I mean, we're not a gigantic district. I know what you're saying, but I mean, like, if New Rochelle purchased 10,000 of them, we might have trouble getting them, but it seems like the supply from who I talk to and reach out to is very good. As it is with most of the things we're seeking to purchase, disinfectant, cleaning supplies, all of that stuff, they've seemed to build up enough of a stockpile now where they can, we can basically get them when we need them, but we shouldn't, if we decide to do it, we should just, do it as soon as possible.
Right. Well, I understand we have the consultant, which we're going to, the board discuss, but I guess in combination with the consultant coming in and figuring out what that would look like together, then I think moving on it sooner than later would be a good thing.
Yeah, we want to look, I don't want to rush into it and get something we can't use.
Right.
So that's why I'm getting, someone's stopping by with a sample tomorrow. I have samples being mailed to me. Obviously, we want to be economical, but we don't want to have something that the students can't use or just doesn't, operate well.
And then for the teachers, are they doing, I guess for those teachers that, I'm not sure how, again, Dr. Goodman, you'll be working with the consultant, but for the teachers' desks, is that something else that you're looking into as far as a partition for those?
Yeah, it would be, more of just a stand-up. It would have legs on it, or it'd be attached. I'm actually going to try to look into ordering maybe a couple of full stand-up partitions. They're probably much more expensive, but in some cases where a teacher has to move around, it might be better to have something on the
Right.
floor.
There's like
So-
partitions with wheels on them?
Yeah,
You could
so
just
we're going
do-
to, that's something that's wouldn't probably get one for everyone, but,
Oh.
Right.
Yes.
yeah.
But we don't want to skimp on that for our teachers, really. So when it comes to our teachers, like, economy has to play in somewhat, but we want to get teachers involved. And I don't think that, we haven't delved in that we would need to do that in every single class. We have some small classes, but if we could figure it out, and let's say, we have been so, probably more than any district, well, I shouldn't say that. Our principals are like, this is 6 feet, this is 6 feet, and once we go over, it's like, well, then we need to do something else. And if we have some flexibility with these partitions, so not buying them K-12, which is, if we really look at it, and we can do this for some classes, I do think you're right. Like, we didn't think that we were going to run out of toilet paper last year either. And districts are starting to see, once Long Island started to do this, and we see it's in the regulation that you can do it,
Right.
that we should, and we also have studied how this virus spreads. You're totally right that we should get our committee together sooner than later to see to get this, because
Right. So
other
that's
districts
our
will
next
look at
step,
this.
is we're going to meet again. I sat through
That-
that meeting with the Health and Wellness Committee, and it was our safety, wellness. And, we're very lucky because we have so many resources in our community. There were, I believe, 3 physicians, a researcher, I believe from Cornell, and we had just a wealth of information and statistics and knowledge. So I think moving forward, knowing the science, making sure our staff is safe, and then also communicating to the community that, we're all in this together. And the more that we can look at it that way. And a lot of the research that I've looked at, interestingly enough, the schools that, again, they don't show the students bringing it in, but what they do see is in the community, obviously, if there's community spread, then, of course, they go away, or if you have people traveling in the community. So we all need to just be aware of that. And I think we've done a great job. And again, thank you so much, Marty, for that. You can come down.
No problem.
So, anything else to discuss? Would you like to discuss it in, or?
No, but we will be working closely with our teachers and our staff, making sure that they also have a meeting with the Health and Wellness Committee and have more teacher representation on it. Certainly our teacher leaders.
Yeah, administration, teachers,
Yes.
and really get
We
everybody
have-
with a
yes,
plan that's
yes, that they're comfortable with.
collaborate. Mhm.
Mhm.
Great. Okay, anybody else? Okay, great. So that ends our workshop presentation, so we're going to go move in now to business of the board. Before I go into, I just want to thank those that are sitting in the audience, and we don't, at workshops, do public comment or questions, so feel free. Obviously, people are going to watch us from home. We're going to have another committee meeting, but if you have any questions, you can always contact Dr. Goodman or anyone else.
I will try to send out a summary tomorrow to everybody, and either tomorrow or Wednesday, so that they understand what we said. Our next asynchronous day, we will meet with teachers so that they are available to help us figure this out. But 4th and 5th grade, I think that Mr. Marash has spoken to people about it. We have a plan for 4th and 5th grade. So I think 6th through 12th will be harder, but 4th and 5th, if the board, it's, Ms. Lou, would you say, how would the budget work for that? Would that be something that the board would vote on, or would we just, where would we?
No, it would be a consensus of the board. If it was a purchase over 10,000, then the practices, we would get a consensus of the board that they're in favor of that kind of purchase, and then we would go ahead and make the purchase.
So maybe we should look at that for the next meeting, which is the purpose.
We don't need a board vote on it.
Oh,
We
just
would-
consensus?
Right.
Okay.
Resolved that the Board of Education of Tuckahoe Union Free School District hereby approves the agreement by and between the district and John D'Arco Sr., which does not require the district to expend any taxpayer funds or monies, and authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute the agreement, and ratifies and approves the terms contained therein. Do I have a motion? Lori? Second? Cynthia? All in favor? Oh, sorry, discussion? All in favor? Number 2, approve an agreement. Resolved that the Board of Education of the Tuckahoe Union Free School District thereby approves the agreement by and between the district and Andrew Mosier for consulting services and systems, data reporting, and analysis at the rate of $75 per hour, not to exceed $7,000 for the 2021 school year. Do I have a motion? Cynthia? Second. Lori? Discussion?
That's what the consultant we talked about during the presentation.
I was going to ask that, okay. Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Number 3, approve a photographer. Resolved that the Board of Education of Tuckahoe Union Free School District thereby approves the agreement by and between the district and Reyes Photography for photography services for athletic events for the 2021 school year at a cost not to exceed $1,000. A motion, Lori? Second. Cynthia? Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Number 4, approve a photographer. Resolved that the Board of Education of Tuckahoe Union Free School thereby approves the agreement by and between the district and Shutterfly Lifetouch LLC as a photographer for the Tuckahoe High School, Middle School student pictures for the 2021 school year. Do I have a motion? Lori, second. Cynthia? Discussion? Okay, that's just the high school year. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Number 5, approve a side letter agreement. Resolved that the Board of Education of the Tuckahoe Union Free School District thereby approves the side letter of agreement by and between the district and the Tuckahoe Teachers Association dated September 24th, 2020, and authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute all documents pertaining to same and to take all actions consistent with terms thereof. Do I have a motion? Lori, second. Cynthia, discussion? All in favor? Number 6, approve an educational services agreement. Resolved that the Board of Education of the Tuckahoe Union Free School District approves an educational service agreement for the 2021 school year at a rate as determined by the New York State Education Department with Yonkers Public Schools, Yonkers Public Schools Summer 2020. Do I have a motion? Cynthia? Second. Lori? Discussion? All in favor? Okay, so we're going to move on to personnel. Resolve to accept personnel items, action items, A through B, as outlined below. You have a motion. Cynthia, second. Lori, discussion? Okay, all in favor? E, adjourn the meeting. Motion to adjourn the meeting. Motion, Lori, second. Cynthia, all in favor? Our next meeting is November 16th for a regular meeting, I believe. Okay, we'll see you then. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.